we'd all like to increase pleasure and minimize pain, but the truth is suffering, even collective suffering that we're going through, is often the earmark that some real change is happening.
There's stuff that life throws back at you that you can't control.
Resilience is absolutely critical to accomplishing their mission.
I had a choice in whether to give up. I had a choice in whether to fight for a second chance.
Difficult experiences are part of life. They're part of our contract with the world simply by virtue of being here.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That gets at the idea, the psychological principle, of anti-fragility. It's a wonderful term. That's actually a clunky, ugly term, but it was made up by Nassim Taleb because we don't have a word for this in the English language, which is that there are some systems that get stronger if they get pushed around, knocked around. So a wine glass is fragile. If you knock it over, it breaks. Nothing good happens. A plastic cup is resilient. If a kid throws it off the table, it doesn't break, but nothing good happens. But there's some things that have to get thrown off the table. There's some systems that have to get pushed around. Things like the banking system had to be tested or it gets fragile and collapses. Bones have to be tested, used, or they get weak. If you were to fly to Mars, your bones would get weak. The immune system, if you protect kids from bacteria, if you keep them in a sterile environment, you're damaging their immune system. The immune system has to face challenges in order to learn.
Life's beauty is inseparable from its fragility. You are healthy until you are not. You are with the people that you love until you are not. You have a job that you love until for some reason that job no longer works out. It is really important that as human beings we develop our capacity to deal with our thoughts and emotions in a way that isn't a struggle, in a way that embraces them and is with them and is able to learn from them.
The old idea of happiness that the Stoics sort of enjoyed was that happiness was a sort of tranquility. So this is really all about a recipe for avoiding unnecessary disturbance and anxiety. So you don't try and control things that you can't. Now the only things you can control are your thoughts and your actions. And that is it, that's it. And if you accept the idea that everything outside of your thoughts and actions are fine, they're fine as they are, and you let that idea really sort of drip into your soul, then you have a very good template for avoiding unnecessary disturbance and anxiety. The opposite of all of this thinking is the American obsession, forgive me, with positive thinking and optimism, that you can, by believing in yourself and setting your goals, crank the world up into line with your aims. And the reality is we just can't.
Stopping it there, guys, and welcome to Mika Reacts and Reviews, where we react and review to things on the internet. And today we are reacting to another Big Think video. I love Big Think because they have a lot of interesting intellectual people on there, a lot of diverse topics. So if you haven't subscribed to Big Think, go at least go on our channel, give it a watch, and if you like what you see, subscribe. This is titled Anti-Fragility: How to Use Suffering to Get Stronger. So they said a few things that I totally agree with. My dad said something once that I still carry with me today. Good having good dads. That one of the reasons why people overly react, like get really angry and really emotional, is because they can't control something, right? That's why people have road rage, because they can't move the traffic. As much as you beep your horn and scream and curse and flip people off, if there's a traffic jam, there's a fucking traffic jam, and people can't control it and they freak out. One of the reasons why people freak out when they get arrested by the cops over a freaking speeding ticket, because they can't control the situation. So they try to do whatever they can to gain back control by spitting and yelling and flailing around, usually just making the situation worse, but that's them trying to gain some control back. But for the most part, there's a lot of things we have no control over, and you just kind of have to accept that those things you can't control. But you can control how you react and respond to those situations. I'm not a big fan of the whole, like, there's no bad situations, there's just bad responses, because, I don't know, assault or your child being kidnapped, those are pretty bad and shitty situations. But a lot of times how you respond can make the situation worse or better or just neutral. Like, again, when someone gets arrested and they turn a speeding ticket into a felony because they responded poorly. They would have just stayed calm and said, there's nothing I can do right now but just stay calm and follow directions and take my speeding ticket, then I don't make the situation worse than it is. It's like, even the idea of fear and panic, like there's a place for fear, but a lot of times just indulging in the fear and turning into panic makes the situation worse. Even in situations where you should be fearful, like if you're being chased by a dog, you should probably be scared of that dog. But if you allow the fear to override all your other thinking skills, then you're probably not going to be able to get yourself out of the situation from the mouths of this dog if you don't calm yourself and go, what is my next steps to get myself out of this scary predicament? It's most likely how you respond to situations. And usually it's not necessarily the situation that made it worse. It's usually the person that makes it worse, or the person that makes it better. Turn the lemons to lemonade sort of scenario. But nobody likes to hear that, because everyone wants to be a victim and everyone wants to blame everyone else. I think parents do a really disservice to their children by trying to bulldoze every complication that child has out of their lives. They're making their child fragile. And like they used in the beginning, the wine glass. The wine glass gets pushed off the table and it shatters. If you create fragile children, the world will break them. You're not doing a service to your child by going, I need to knock every difficulty out of their way. When I was in middle school, as horrible as my mom was, she just told me to fight my bullies. Like, I was being bullied in middle school. She didn't go up to the school and demand them to stop the bullies. She just said, stick up for yourself and fight your bullies. And that's what I did, and I stopped getting bullied. Now, it depends on the situation. It can be really bad, but I think parents think they're doing the right thing by sterilizing everything so the kid doesn't get sick, not realizing you're weakening your kid's immunity. So when they go out into the world, they're going to break. And if you don't know this by now, Gen Z, and I don't know about Gen Alpha yet, but Gen Z is one of the most fragile generations, because when they were born in the decade of helicopter parenting or attachment parenting, which is coddle your child and push every obstacle you can think of out of the way. And I'm pretty sure these parents had great intentions, but it wasn't really great. There needs to be a balance there. But anywho, let's continue with the video.
The things I learned about resilience through my time in prison is that human beings, I believe by nature, are very resilient. And oftentimes we don't recognize our own resiliency until we're faced with obstacles and circumstances that challenge us and pushes us. And it looks different for everybody. You know, when I think about my journey in prison, I went through some very adverse experiences. I had some significant obstacles to overcome, including, long-term solitary confinement, which they estimate is designed to drive a person crazy after 90 days. And what I found in that environment is that people figure out ways to cope and to survive when they're forced to do so. And for me, I found that I was very resourceful when my back was against the wall. If you acknowledge what you're going through and you recognize that it is an obstacle, that it's that dark moment, but you also realize there's light on the other side of that tunnel, then you can get through. And to me, I think hope is probably the cornerstone of resilience. As long as you have hope, you can come out on the other side of anything. Once you dim the light of hope, there's no possibility of you coming out on the other side. And to me, I think that's what resiliency is. I always looked at, if I focus on the purpose instead of the pain, then I can get through to the other side. And that's how I live my life. And to me, those things embody what resilience really is. I would think three of the ingredients toward being resilient is you have to be optimistic. Optimism is such an integral part of getting through adversity. I would say a second thing is really being resourceful and figuring out in your environment what are things you can utilize to help you cope with whatever it is you're going through. And then I think the third thing would be you have to have memory loss. I know that probably sounds crazy, right? But what I found is that a lot of times we replay memories that no longer exist over and over in our head. And what that does is it holds you hostage. And so once you begin to release those memories and recognize that you can never reclaim that space or that time or that experience, then you can move forward in life. You know, because now you've taken the shackles off your feet and you're a lot more mobile. And I think in order to be resilient, you have to not be thinking about what happened in the past, and you really just have to be focused on what you need to do to move forward.
I agree with everything that he said. A few things. The memory loss thing, not living in the past. I've said this a million and a trillion times. When you have these oppression groups, the narrative with the oppression group is always the past. We know what happened in slavery and redlining and Jim Crow with feminism. Women couldn't vote. Women couldn't have the same jobs men can have. It's always, let's keep conjuring up the past so we can remember how oppressed we are. If you keep living in the past, even as an individual, you've been victimized somehow by your parents, by a stranger, by a boyfriend, a girlfriend, by a job, whatever. You've been victimized. You're truly a victim. If you keep living in that victimhood, you're allowing that perpetrator to constantly win over and over and over and over in your life and keep you stuck, complacent, right there. You cannot move forward if you keep living in the past. Forgiveness is not saying what the person did is okay. Forgiveness is really your medicine. It's for you. Because the only person that's going to suffer holding on to the past is you. The people who did this shit, they're moving on. They're living their lives. So I agree with that. And what he said earlier is that human beings are extremely resilient. I think history proves that. But I said in a different video that I think we live in a culture now where there's a hyper focus on demoralization, so you cannot realize how capable and resilient and strong you really are. And one of those ways is, let's keep living in the past. When you were a victim, when you were oppressed, stay right there so you can feel demoralized, so you don't build your strength up. I truly believe you have to go through hard times to become resilient. And that doesn't mean you have to go through the worst type of victimization in human history. You don't have to be abused as a child like me or as assaulted, but I still think you have to go through some sort of trials and tribulations to build up that resilience. This goes back to the Stoicism. I love Stoicism because I think it's really important to have in life. And it's also kind of with detachment, not knowing that you can't control everything. You can't control whether someone's going to stay with you or not. You can't control necessarily whether people are going to your business you work at is going to shut down and you're going to be out of a job. So you have to not allow the things you're attached to break you. If you no longer have those things, it's the way you respond to the situation, not the situation entirely. And I'm not saying you don't have any control. Like, you can do, you can be a good boyfriend, good girlfriend, or a good husband and wife, so you can keep your relationship. But if it ends, you can't control that other person, but you can control how you respond to them wanting to exit the relationship. You don't have to let it make you spiral into a death toll or something like that. But anyway, we're almost done with the video. Let's continue.
But if your flight is delayed, you can watch people start suffering. So there's an unpleasant thing happening. A flight has been delayed. But the suffering happens when you start, and you can watch this happen from what other people and myself call the witness place. You watch yourself constructing a story. And this is where suffering comes. It's your attachment to how you think things should be. And of course I still do this. Please don't think I'm sitting in a chair, I'm not floating. But you see the story begin to happen, and you go, Delta or United should do better. They're always doing this. That's like the first level. And then you start going like, I'm going to miss this thing, or I'm going to be late to the dinner, and damn it, my ticket cost this much. And this is the narrative that we build. Really, something has happened. The flight is delayed. Maybe it was completely preventable, but it's happening. You need to find a quiet place inside where just the fundamental fact that you are participating in reality is enough value and dignity to draw upon at any moment. You only change through suffering. Otherwise, why would you change? Why would you change? It's working.
That's true. Why would you change? If it's all working, why would you actually try to evolve and be a better person? Traveling has done this for me a lot. I know I'm mentioning traveling again, but there's two situations. I'll try to make them quick. One, I was on the train and I asked the conductor, one of the people who were working on the train, can you wake me up before you get to my stop? Because I'm going, you know, it's a sleeper train and I was scared I was going to miss my stop. He forgot to wake me up and ended up going to the last stop, and he was so apologetic and he was like, sorry. And I was like, okay, big deal. Like, you don't have to be sorry. There's no point of me getting upset. I already missed my stop. That's it. So I'll get off the train and I'll wait for the next train and I'll get back on. I didn't throw a hissy fit about it because I can't do anything about it. I can't control it. Or another situation is like, I was at a restaurant with a friend in Bangkok, Thailand, and I ordered some food. I got the change back and I put the change like under a cup or something and tried to remember to grab it, and I forgot. I walked away. We were down like 2 blocks and I remember I left my change. I went back and it was gone, and the waiter and everyone said they didn't see it, whatever. And I was like, okay. And the girl next to me kind of said, I'm kind of surprised you're not freaking out about it. And she said, you're really not that American, because most Americans would literally lose their mind if they lost some money. And I'm like, well, what's the point of losing my mind? The money is gone. What is that gonna do? Like, you know what I mean? And we create these stories, and I do this because I think I have a little bit of like ADHD sometimes, like, or not ADHD, like OCD, where I like overthink sometimes or overanalyze. So I do this, like conjure up stories in my head if I don't know what's happening, and it's a way for me to try to have control and I know what it's about, but it just causes suffering, so I do it. Alright guys, that was it. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Again, I forgot to mention I edit this video down, and so if you want to see the whole video, go on Big Think and you can go see the video your whole self. I didn't want to make this video too long, so I edited it down to the parts that I thought was the most important, or the parts that resonated with me the most. If you like that, please like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell to get notifications when I do upload. All of that really does help with the algorithm, guys. And then you can donate. It keeps you on this platform. And you guys have an amazing, beautiful day. Bye.
We'd all like to increase pleasure and minimize pain, but the truth is, suffering, even collective suffering that we're going through, is often the earmark that some real change